Welcome along, fellow time travelers and strange historians. This time around, we're going to try to figure out why in the world Yoko Ono used to howl like that. Come on, you've asked yourself that question, and you're not alone. People around the world have asked that same exact question. Now, for all the Yoko Ono fans out there, and in many ways I am one of them, don't freak out on me for saying howl, because that is what John and Yoko themselves called it, and I'm going to show you that. Either way, there are reasons that you don't like hearing her howl. And it's not because you supposedly hate women, or you're a misogynist, or you're a racist, or any of that other nonsense that people have said. No, it's none of that. Because if someone who looked just like you howled just like that, people would still hate it. In fact, if you howled like that, no matter what you look like, or whether you're male or female, everyone would hate it too. And I'm going to tell you why. By the way, this is not an anti-Yoko Ono video. In fact, if Yoko Ono or Sean Lennon or Elliot Mintz or even the great John Lennon heard what I'm going to tell you, they would all agree. And I think that they would actually be very happy that someone finally took the time to explain this. So let's get rolling. Before I begin, please like and share this show and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. And please share your thoughts about this in the comments below. Now please join me around the campfire. Yoko Ono's vocal style was characterized by unconventional and experimental howling. What she was doing was performing. She wasn't trying to be harmonious or pleasant or soft and soothing. She was never trying to evoke a sense of joy or happiness in you. She was never trying to lift your spirits and make you feel elated. You were never supposed to be in awe of her skill or artistry. When she howled, you were not ever supposed to feel calm or relaxed or nostalgic. No. That was for regular music. That was for regular singing. Her howling was a deliberate artistic choice that aligned with her avant-garde and conceptual approach to music and performance.
Something like that.
And so you see, Yoko Ono's howling was a form of artistic expression that challenged traditional norms and expectations in music. She was showing that singers could break free from conventional constraints and push boundaries. Now you might say to yourself, well, nobody really needed Yoko Ono to tell singers that. I mean, you had Frank Sinatra and Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong and Bing Crosby and Nat King Cole and Danny Kaye and countless others who were singing quite unlike anyone else prior to Yoko Ono. And they did so in ways that were pleasing for people to listen to. And so it's not like this was some kind of big breakthrough, like, oh my goodness, thank goodness Yoko Ono did this. Now we know that there's this other way of doing things. No. There were people already doing all sorts of amazing stuff. But either way, her vocalizations prioritized raw emotion and spontaneity over polished singing technique. It was meant to provoke thought and engage the audience, even if that meant pissing them off, or making them want to vomit, or annoying them, or making them angry, or anything else. She wanted to provoke you. And guess what? She did. Here she is performing with John Lennon. Now imagine what John Lennon's fans thought when they showed up to see him and they were subjected to that. Now please let me know in the comments below if you think anyone in the audience enjoyed that. Or were they really confused and maybe even angry in some ways at John Lennon? As a matter of fact, imagine what Chuck Berry felt like when he performed with John Lennon, who admired him. And while he and John were singing one of Chuck Berry's classic songs, and Yoko started howling.
Half a mile up
Now, you might be asking yourself, where on earth did Yoko learn to do that, and why would she even want to? Check it out. In 1956, when Yoko was 23 years old, she married a man named, and I'll probably pronounce this wrong, Toshi Ishiyangi, who was a Japanese composer and musician who most people never even heard of. After college, she moved to Manhattan. She started hanging out with avant-garde artists. Now, here is where we get the answers that we seek. You see, avant-garde artists weren't really artists. They weren't trying to create artwork of true beauty. Now, many artists who were considered to be avant-garde had genuine talent, such as Frank Zappa. But for the most part, I think that most people assume, and probably you do too, that most people who call themselves avant-garde were mostly pseudo-intellectual weirdos who didn't really have any inherent skills or talents and gifts to create something of true merit. And so they pretended or convinced themselves that they were part of a significant artistic trend. While there were also others who were fraudsters, who attempted to gain prominence by embracing an anti-art stance, figuring, hey, if they can convince people that there is something of value in this and they're part of something bigger than themselves, then they may as well cash in on it and laugh all the way to the bank. Now let's talk about Dada. Dada, D-A-D-A, was an avant-garde art movement that's not around anymore. Wonder why. It emerged during and after World War I, primarily in Europe. Dada artists rejected traditional aesthetic and cultural values and sought to create a radical, often absurd and anti-establishment form of art and culture. The movement aimed to shock and provoke viewers by its rejection of reason and logic. Now, a lot of Yoko Ono fans love to claim that she was a rising star in the Fluxus art movement that also is not around anymore. So let's talk about that a little bit, because all of these sort of mesh together, right? The Fluxus art movement was an avant-garde movement that emerged in the early 1960s. It challenged traditional notions of art and performance. Some of the key characteristics of Fluxus art was to be absurd and to challenge the seriousness of traditional art and music. Fluxus artists often rejected the commercialization of art and sought to create works that were anti-commercial and anti-establishment. Okay, so you're noticing a trend here, right? Avant-garde artists weren't meant to impress you. They were meant to upset you and to do the exact opposite of what you would normally like. They wanted to break free from tradition. They wanted to break free of anything that would give you a sense of nostalgia and romance and affection. Now check this out. Collaboration was a significant aspect of Fluxus. These artists worked together and shared ideas to create a sense of community while trying to destroy your sense of community. You see, Fluxus artists dismissed traditional art forms and they had a lack of respect for established artistic traditions. And so they aimed to provoke or challenge societal norms and expectations, and that offended a lot of people. Fluxus often prioritized concept and idea over traditional artistic craftsmanship. And this disappointed a lot of people who value highly detailed and skillful art techniques. Now at this point, you might be saying that a lot of these people that were involved in these sort of anti-art movements simply didn't have any talent, but they wanted to be artists themselves. And so you know what they say, those who can't create, destroy. So let's talk about John Cage. Yoko Ono was always looking for collaborators. Long before she hooked up with the great John Lennon, she collaborated with John Cage. Who's John Cage? Well, he was a pioneer of experimental music, particularly known for his use of chance operations and non-traditional instruments. So in 1961, Yoko Ono collaborated with John Cage on experimental music and conceptual works. She learned just about everything from him. And so yeah, together they challenged traditional notions of art and music, and they emphasized concepts and ideas over conventional forms and techniques. Here's an example of their musical collaborations. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you, because it kind of sounds like the stuff that John and Yoko ended up doing together. So remember, you were never supposed to like Yoko Ono's screeching and yowling and howling. She knew it, John Lennon knew it, all these other anti-art performers knew it too. And if you fell for it, if you're one of these people that's like, oh no, she was a great artist, it was really great. It was meant to be silly, it was meant to be a joke, it was meant to destroy. It wasn't meant to create. Now listen, some people might like that. You might like that. And that's why I'm saying this is not an anti-Yoko Ono video. Because there's a lot of people out there who love the idea of destroying what was in the past and creating something new. And you might be one of those people, and obviously Yoko Ono was trying to do the same thing along with these other avant-garde artists. Yoko specialized in something that could be described as experimental noise music. Noise music was deliberately designed to be challenging and inaccessible. Even if you think the howling thing is really cool, chances are you never listened to it twice. If you did, please let me know in the comments below. So when Yoko did her howling bit, she was not trying to please you, or make you happy, or bring joy or beauty or love or warmth to your life. Fluxus was against all of that. It was the exact opposite of what Beatles music was. And that's why, and we'll talk about this another time, Beatles fans hated Yoko Ono. Because they love the Beatles music. They like the types of music that was like the Beatles. People who were listening to the Beatles in the 60s also liked Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry and the Everly Brothers and Elvis and Eddie Cochran and Little Richard and the Beach Boys. And so that's what they liked, and that's what they were used to. And so most Beatles fans would never in a million years have heard anything even close to what Yoko Ono was doing. And so don't be angry at Yoko Ono for howling. She admired John Cage and wanted to emulate what he did. And so when she met John Lennon, she finally had the opportunity to do that on a grand scale. Remember, no one in her position ever had the platform that she had before. John Lennon gave her that spotlight. Listen to Moondog and Lamonte Young and Meredith Monk and Kathy Barbaria and so many others who aim to break down the boundaries between different art forms and challenge traditional artistic norms. But more than anyone else, listen to John Cage and you will know where Yoko Ono got her ideas from and what she was trying to do.
When I talk about music, it finally comes to people's minds that I'm talking about sound, that doesn't mean anything, that is not inner, but is just outer. And they say, these people who understand that finally say, you mean it's just sounds? Thinking that for something to just be a sound is to be useless. Whereas I love sounds, just as they are.
I could do a little for you, but I don't think it'd mean anything for you.
Well, everything
You want
is
me to do
something.
it?
Yeah, it'd be nice just to do it.
C'est pas- oh, oh.
Beautiful. I like that.
Do you like
Yes,
it?
it got right through to me.
Well, I just go on for hours.
Yeah.
She was not the only one to sing and perform noise music, or experimental noise music, or experimental singing, or howling.
Did you have a good breakfast?
What's your name?
My name's John. What's your name?
What's your name?
I told you, my name's John.
My name is Barbie.
That's what I thought. That's what it says up here. It says your name is Harvey.
What's your name?
My name's John.
And so as a result of her marriage to John Lennon, she became the most famous person to do that. And chances are, when you listen to Yoko Ono, you think she's some kind of unique breed that did something that nobody else did, but there were a lot of other people doing the same sort of thing. They just didn't have the platform or the spotlight that she did, and continue to have, once again, thanks to her marriage to John Lennon. And so if you don't like Yoko Ono, and if you don't like Yoko Ono's howling, then the real person you should be mad at is John Lennon, who introduced that into your life, because once again, without him, you probably never would have heard any of it. And so, thanks, John. So, what do you think of Yoko Ono's howling? Do you like it? Which of her howling pieces do you like best? What do you think Eric Clapton thought when he heard the howling? What do you think Paul McCartney and George Harrison and Ringo Starr thought when they heard the howling? What do you think George Martin thought when he heard the howling? What do you think Chuck Berry thought when he heard the howling? What did you think when you first heard Yoko Ono's howling? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. By the way, I don't know who took some of the photos that I've shown in the show, and so if you do, please let me know so I can respectfully give them the credit they deserve. Kindly remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Please check out the links below to learn how to support my research and productions. Specifically, I'd really appreciate it if you could become a member of my channel and or join me on Patreon. You could also leave a super thanks in the comments below. Kindly be kind to all non-human animals and please don't eat them. They don't like that. Remember, for the benefit of compassion for all living things and their own health, all of the Beatles chose a plant-based diet. And please do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter and adopt a cat or a dog. You and they will be very glad that you did. Until next time, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.